honestly, out of a lot of the people in this bracket right now, Mr. Table is definitely on the table of players that I think could dethrone Astro. He's
interesting. Why do you say that?
a lot of it is just he's been figuring things out a lot. His twin tail is absolutely phenomenal. He has a well-rounded loadout. It depends on what we see Astro come in with, because that will heavily determine the flow and tempo of things. Astro might have just a character that he's going to bring in that shuts down twin tail with the right loadout. Table has been figuring out a bit on how to really contend with explosives too. He's had a lot of time. We'll have to see how he contends with it now, because I imagine that there's going to be a lot of explosives.
I can almost guarantee there are going to be more explosives in a Michael Bay film. What I think it's really going to depend on is whether or not Astro brings out the brass or the coil.
Does he still play coil?
Sometimes, allegedly, from what I've heard.
If he brings out the coil, it's from what it's the classic arms player situation where they will, if they're a top player, if they're a top dog, they'll play anything but their main until they're on their last game on the loser side of bracket, and then that's all they'll play.
See, from what I've seen from Astro over the last few weeks, it has been the opposite. He has been chilling out in bi-weeklies playing brass until winner's bracket, when he's just decided, okay, you know what? I am going to win this again. I am busting out coil because you are not a threat to me. So it'll be interesting to see if he starts out with that same mindset as we go into this first match here.
And it looks like
we're seeing the brass.
You made a good call. You made a good call. Brass is another of those top characters. I mean, to nobody's surprise, you're seeing a lot of top tiers here. You're seeing a lot of character picks that are very, very strong, very effective tools in the competitive scene for various reasons. Max Brass is definitely one of those. He might have a bit of a bigger body. He might not always be the fastest, but he has a really good job for getting out of touch situations. When he enrages, he gets permanent armor as well. And when he buffs up through a grab or Dragon Arm charge or the AMP, much like Springtron, when he gets his own full charge, he gets armor alongside with his buff state.
Yeah, and you can see just how dicey that was for Table until he secured that with that rush. We saw how quickly he had Ninja on the ropes until that last 25%, and then he had to play a much more careful game to get that win.
Indeed. Brass is very much that character where you kind of need to come into him with a game plan. Like how we were talking about with Prince really wanting to have a game plan as Springtron. Brass is a character that forces a lot of players to have to make their game plan about him. You pressure the daylights out of him. You prevent him from buffing up. If he does, you get a grab or a really strong read, or you survive until he loses that buff.
You really need to go into a Max Brass match, especially against Astro, with the mindset that you need to oppress him harder than he is going to oppress you. And that's just how that goes. If you lose that mental matchup, you're already done.
And then on top of that, unless you are that good of a player or that secure in the situation, you do not use your rush until Brass is at 30% or lower. In which case, then you utilize it to prevent the Enrage from being a threat.
Yep. And we're going into this third round here with both players having their rush up. Astro already having burned through his. Table may be popping that a little bit too early. We'll see if he can get another one going by the time he's down to 30. But we'll see. We will see.
Astro getting the buff off. He's getting grab confirmed. This is the Brass tempo. That's a third of Table's health taken away. 25%. A Chakram to grab would kill. So would this rush.
And that is it for set one. Table coming out with a really great round 1, but then Astro immediately adapts to remind you, no, you're not winning this first set. So we're going to see if Table can bring it back here in set 2 once we know what stage we're going to.
A lot of this, too, is Astro's really good at... He's got a phenomenal game plan. He's also great at counterplay. He's great at figuring out and responding to various situations, what his opponent might be looking to do, and making sure that they are always on their back heel as much as possible. And we saw.
It looks like this next match we're going to Temple. So we're gonna see, with that being such a smaller stage compared to DNA, exactly how this matchup ends up going either way.
I feel like this could be better. It's not DNA Lab. I feel like Table. We saw in the stage striking, Table intentionally was like, we're not going to just go straight to DNA Lab. But then didn't ban DNA Lab, meaning that it was a very clean and obvious pick for Astro just to go straight there. And you saw why Astro wants to go to DNA Lab. It doesn't look like it's a good stage because Brass can get out-zoned. But it also means it's really easy for Brass to buff up.
Yep, 100%. And he just does not have the room for that on the smaller stage. Does not seem like it's bugging Astro, though, as he charges behind Pillar just for anything that Twin Tail decides to throw him.
And out comes a very clean, a very strong rush. Most of the all the pillars are gone. Yeah, all the pillars are already taken away from us. And so, the thing that probably felt like the biggest advantage for Table, already off.
Would you say that it's off the table?
That's table pun number 2, folks. Stay tuned for more table puns. In comes the grab! And yes, I definitely would say it's off the table.
But what was not off the table was how quickly Table was able to go and bring that back. And even now, just applying that pressure to Astro. Now we're at the real game, though. Now that he's down at that 25 to 30%, we're going to see whether or not Table can keep it up and secure this round.
You saw how effective, how patient Table was being, but because Astro is just in this indomitable state, and because Table did not have a rush, he was just fishing for a chance to get that rush back, and unfortunately could not get his answer, which means... Thank you, Brass. Thank you, Brass.
And just like that, that is set 2. And it really goes to show, right? Like, you can go and get Brass down to that last bit of health very early on, but if you are not prepared to absolutely rush him down and apply that pressure, you are not going to make it out of there.
Yeah, you need a game plan to be able to take Brass down at that low health. Either it's going to be you get that Chilla, and then you get a Chalkerman to grab it in Table situation, or you have that rush ready. You either need to get the brutalist of opening counters at some point during that enrage, or you have rush ready. Because the alternative is you die. And nobody wants to die.
Now we're taking it to sparring. No pillars to mess with. Just a nice, clean, square stage for both players to run around it. Table immediately getting a little bit of a lead here off of Astro. So we'll see if he can adapt and have a game plan ready by the time Astro gets down to that 30%.
He's gonna knock him right into it immediately. That is 200 health that Astro has. It is doubled because of that armor situation. We've got about 75 taken away already. So there's only a few more hits that are left. Table might just want to go for a shield breaker kill. Can't do that when he's disarmed, though. Astro more than willing to trade the rush in that situation, just recognizing how much control he had out of the rush situation. But he took so much damage from that shield chip that a single Chilla was all Table needed.
And now we've seen the dynamic kind of flip, because if Astro did not have that rush, he would be starting this first round here with that rush bar fully ready to go to keep Table on edge, and that is just not an advantage he has now.
Ooh, he did get the grab confirm. Doesn't have the chalk room to get those absolute confirms, but a confirm off of the explosion. He is dancing. He's taunting. He's like, Table, you don't got an answer for this situation. You're just dead.
Throwing Table around like a doll.
And we are moving into this next round. Both players ready with their rushes. It is a much more even situation. Out comes the rush. Astro will take advantage with 310 damage and a chance to build up EMP or buff. Doesn't get it. And Astro manages
right
to
back.
A little bit of witchcraft to safely clean out that situation. Granted, it was still... Table was able to still get a good chunk of what he was looking for there. Gets the stun, gets a grab confirmed. Building up rush, needs to get it ready sooner than later. Astro has a rush of his own prepared. Out comes the rush. This is going to be a clean block. That might be a kill, though. Finishing touch.
Oh. Very clean set by Astro. Very clean set by Astro.
Indeed. A unfortunate loss for Table, but a very clean set for Astro. Handled the situation admirably. Played very well. Really proud of how Table did in that one. Unfortunately, was not able to carry things all the way. Got close to winning a set off of Astro, which is a lot more than some people could say.